At the end of the day, it depends what's your primary motivator. Was it about money? You should have stayed in banking.
Yes.
Yani, I should have stayed in... I don't know
Thanks
what
for reminding me.
Yeah.
I always think that a lot of entrepreneurs are, including myself there's a naivete to starting these businesses.
There has to be.
Because when you're in it, you're like, oh my God, it's so hard.
أنا بالنسبة لي, people aren't serving these customers. I want to serve them.
صح.
I'm competing with white space.
صح. You don't
It's
have
like-
to shout from the town.
Yeah, I don't shout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I shout. Because that's also a very HBS thing, right? I mean, this kind of like run. And when you run your own company, in some ways you can. But sometimes I wonder, does that even serve me?
We were so focused on this taste and vetting and making sure the brands were, yeah, which made us much slower, right? And not ambitious. And all of that was our route, because بالنسبة لنا design is taste. Sometimes I don't know, am I a workaholic or do I just love my job? I don't even know. Like, it's a blurred...
Welcome to the Lighthouse Conversations, a podcast featuring entrepreneurs from the worlds of arts, culture, tech, and food. I'm your host, Hashim Montasib. So today we have a special guest, my friend Heba El Gabaly, who is the founder and CEO of Efreshli, a company that sits at the intersection of tech and interior design. So Heba started her entrepreneurial journey with Efreshli over 6 years ago, and I've been following the company quite closely ever since. I thought the idea of using interior design and leaning on technology to create something bespoke that you can have in the physical world, but you can't only have in the virtual world is very interesting. Heba started the company like most small companies. It grew over time. And now over the last year or two, she's done two major things. One, she received VC funding. So we speak a little bit about that, because anyone that starts his own company knows there's pros and cons to taking venture capital money. And the second very interesting thing she did is she brought a co-founder into the business, which is quite unusual 6 years into it. So I had a lot of questions onto why she brought a co-founder, why now? Did she bring it because she was pressured by the VC, or was it her own decision? And how the dynamic worked. The other new thing we've done this time is this is our first episode from our brand new location. So this is our Dubai Hills location, which opened last October. And we've decided over the next couple of episodes to film from here. So you're gonna see a little bit of a different setting than our usual very bright setting. This is a lot darker, moodier. And over the next couple of episodes, we'll take you behind the scenes and explore the restaurant as well. Heba, welcome. Nice to see you here.
Well, I'm honored that you're here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to jump right in. So when you look at Efreshli today, talk me through the choices you've made between online and offline, because I can tell you from my experience in the restaurant business, which is very different, obviously. A lot of people thought when the whole cloud kitchen business emerged, oh, this is easy. We can now just have restaurants online and I'll do great and I don't need any of this, which is expensive and difficult to build. The truth turned out to be that no, you need both. So the brands that did, at least so far, the best were the ones that had an online presence and an offline presence, and those reinforced each other. Now, you've started obviously on the pure online e-tailer, so to speak, but now you're also having potentially offline, right? You have an offline shop. So walk me through how you think of it.
Okay, to start, yes, I definitely think of Efreshli as a tech company.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made it different.
So this is how you thought of it when you started? Like, I want to start a tech company, or you went to the pain point of what you're solving for today?
It's the pain point, but the pain point had to have a tech component. So in my first 5 employees, there was a full stack engineer. So I was looking to build a tech team. Versus you're a retailer and then you overlay an element of tech onto it.
Because you thought that this is the way of the future, or because that's what you wanted to build?
Because that's what I wanted to build. I definitely had a dream in it to have design accessible, but I can't say I had a vision and I knew the future. That didn't happen. Some people say that. They say I'm disrupting the industry. أنا ما قلتش الكلام ده.
Yeah. Well, I think disrupting.
But at that point, like, that got you VC funding, right? Like, people wanted to hear that. That wasn't my going in strategy. And I happened to be, I think by accident, in the design community, a non-designer. So when I was working, as you know, with Eklego, with Hedi and Dina.
Which was how many years?
9 years.
9 years, yeah. Which was a pure offline business, right?
100%. Yeah. This was like
a very successful business.
A very successful business. It was my first venture into entrepreneurship. I had my kids. I needed flexibility. Again, by accident, my friends need a third partner. I joined them and I loved them. I wasn't necessarily drawn to design. It's not that I wanted to be a designer. Right? Yeah. But so when you work in something for 9 years, you start to really understand the industry, the ecosystem, and I could see design was very niche. At the end of the day, an interior designer is going to serve 20, 30 clients a year. Yani, it's a very full-stacked kind of service. And I was getting, at that point, 2013, Instagram بقى وكده, you're starting to get people who just want small design.
Right.
Yani, like customers who don't want to pay so much money to do a full design.
Or a refurb. Or I just want my bathroom done.
Yeah.
Yani, it doesn't also need to be, because everybody thought of interior design as always this sort of big project, right?
It has to be a big project.
Yeah, like I'm designing this whole restaurant.
Yeah.
Maybe I just want to design this room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine going to the designer who did the lighthouse وتقول له I want to do a room.
He'll say, screw you.
هقول لك بالضبط. Who do you think you are?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is kind of the beginnings of it. In the whole, there's a whole customer segment which is overlooked in design, and there's like this social media. Everybody's seeing it, but they're not being served. That's it. Could only work if it's cheap, if it's convenient. Yani the service has to be delivered in a certain way.
So is the punchline here scalability of design? Was that what you were trying to solve for?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was addressing a different market, not the people who wanted to or were willing to pay a huge fee to do their whole home. I was addressing a whole segment of the market that interior designers wasn't paying attention to.
Yeah.
That's how the tech came. And that's, yani, the team at the very beginning is very different than a retailer or a designer. Yes. So a retailer is going to get a store manager. Yani, you're going to get, these are the people that you bring in. If you're a designer, you're hiring designers. With us, we hired a designer. I had one designer, one visualizer, a full stack engineer, an accountant. Yani, that was it. That was the basic unit to make this company take off.
I always think that a lot of entrepreneurs are, including myself there's a naivete to starting these businesses.
There has to
because when you're in it, you're like, oh my God, it's so hard. And there were so many barriers that are like real that can make you. So Masa, when I think about your business, like, did you think about a lot of the curated type of niche areas? I mean, fashion comes to mind. It's a very prominent one.
Yeah.
Didn't work mostly. I mean, and a very big struggle, right, for all these like Net-a-Porter type companies to actually compete, even though the big guys like the Amazons didn't really crack their market and still.
Yeah.
So did that occur to you that, what if an Amazon type company comes in that has all these resources and I'm trying to build this? Yes, now more scalable than offline, you're right, but still niche. And overnight, they can swallow you up. Or
didn't.
You didn't, yeah.
I think it's like you're saying. I think I'm a typical entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm very naive.
Yeah.
I look
very naive. You had some, you have to have some.
Yeah. You're not going to build it if you can look at the future and think of every competitor and what can be. Like, أنا بالنسبة لي, like, you're seeing like one hill into the future. أنا بالنسبة لي, people aren't serving these customers. I want to serve them. I'm competing with white space. I don't look at competition. I don't look at
I like that. I'm competing with white
not
space.
At the beginning. Maybe later it is. But at the beginning, you're like, I just want to build a service because like 5 people came and asked me for it and nobody else is doing it. Why not?
So the service was what? Walk us through your first customers. Who are they? Like what were they looking for?
Like I told you, I hired a couple of people and we started creating 3D visualizations. Okay. So it had to be pretty.
Yes. So there was no website at the beginning.
I launched Instagram before the website. Okay. And for the website, I actually went the typical route. I went to an agency and got a website to do it.
Okay.
And then I decided to build the tech team.
Okay. So it started on social media, interesting enough.
Yes.
Okay.
And I with Eklego, because I was handling marketing, I was really into Instagram and social media already. And I started with social media, created 3D visualizations, putting brands together in one space. And what I realized is social media was طبعا growing very fast. The brands were starting to come online. This is in Egypt.
Yes.
Egypt is a little bit behind the UAE in terms of just the sophistication of the retail market. Many of the brands at that time, you can never get the price. You go into the shop, there's no camera. You're not allowed to. So it was about just transparency and showing customers what they can get. So you can get this whole room for this X, and I can put you all these 5-6 brands you like together. You don't have to be stuck with one brand.
I'm going to get a table, but there's no chairs, and then I have to go somewhere else for the sofa and whatever.
It's quite
So your focus was on the mood boards, like really catch your attractive mood boards that effectively inspire or
people want
aspire. You want this aspiration element.
Very inspirational.
Yes, and aspirational also.
And very aspirational. And tangible. I can see, it's not, a lot of us see these renders, but you're like, where do I get this stuff from? So tangible. I can see these brands. I can recognize these brands, and somebody's going to bring them to me together, and I don't have to pay them $20,000 as a design. That's just how it started. And I started to create these renders كده. And first طبعا I went to the brands. I had known them from the time of Eclego.
You had the relationship.
They had nothing to lose. They had nothing to lose.
You're giving them a secondary revenue potential.
Yeah. And then I started posting. They started posting our posts. So we could our reach came up. And then I started getting inquiries. And at this point, I wasn't monetizing.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's this entrepreneur. Like, I'm just doing it, and we'll see what comes. And then at one point, one person sent me, I don't know her. She's like, I want this. So I'm sorry.
So here's my question. Do you get, I want this, like,
I want.
I was up to get up. I want the sofa, but
No, she wanted this.
I want this.
I want this.
اديني الفيلم ده. Hey.
So I'm sorry, Annie. My website is still not working.
So what did you do?
But what about me?
She has a point.
And then she gave me a deadline. So I'm like, okay, Annie. I served her, and then I got more people on board, started to serve, got the website up and running.
Is that still the main lead engine for you guys? Instagram and also mood boards? Or is it that now people are landing on your website and, figuring out stuff? Because there's now an element to your company that's like any e-tailer where I can go in and just buy the sofa and check out.
Yes, we did that later. Where I realized we had to bring people back in. No, the main one is
still that.
Yeah. So we're less differentiated so far in the direct e-commerce.
Right.
I mean, just by virtue, and that's what always existed. Like you always had e-commerce for home, or not always at the same time as us. You can just go buy the sofa. What people wanted was this professional advice at a low price to do their whole room.
And I have to say, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, in Egypt, you're still at an advantage because on the furniture side, it's still not transparent. Prices are still not online. There are still many furniture makers and retailers that don't have their stuff online, at least not in a way that we can access easily. Like I went to your website. There's a lot of brands that I recognize that I like. I had no idea how much they cost. And now I'm like, this costs £20,000. So you are still offering a service. I mean, I don't know how much that is مثلا would be the case here, but certainly it's the case in Egypt.
100%.
Yeah.
But definitely there's been movements in 2019, and I think we were part of that. And there's other people who have come up. But still, Egypt as a society,
it's not as digitized.
We're secretive, but it's definitely not as digitized. Relationships matter. It takes, it's very, that's why I'm saying Dubai is way ahead. And actually, I think I launched Efreshli because I was in Dubai. The idea came when I lived in Dubai, but to implement it where I had a network.
Okay, so you launched, and then what were the type of challenges? I mean, I'm sure at the beginning there were many, many challenges. But what were the key challenges? Every one of us, I think, gets moments where you're like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I mean, I get them once a week. But this is not a therapy session, so I'll spare you. But, well, I mean, could be if you like. But I think that's a different conversation. That's a different session. يمكن بعديها. But so what were the kind of key challenges that you faced, especially in the early days, where you were like, this is like, looked insurmountable?
The first year for me was great. We went into COVID. Most people were working from home. I rode
and people wanted to
and home was
redo
growing.
Their offices
and I was still, at the beginning you have a bit of cash. I did some family and friends pre-seed or whatever it's called. No problem. I'm on my own small team, very low responsibilities, right? The challenges start when you want to raise, when you want to scale. And I'm not well versed in this خالص. يعني أنا داخلة دنيا أنا أصلا I thought it was good to like be profitable.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I thought it was good to like, you know.
Yeah, and then you get VCs telling you, no, it doesn't matter. You
you're
to grow.
Not ambitious. لا, you're not ambitious.
This is what you heard.
You're not ambitious enough. To come to terms طبعا with like, I'm not this is enough.
God, if you're not ambitious, I don't know.
Anyway, I discovered in that world, no, I wasn't. يعني people are like, I'm 10x, 100x.
But can we just speak about this for a second? I think that's a very important point because I have a view on this. You're a profitable company.
I'm not a profitable
No, I'm saying you were مثلا at the time. So you
at some point.
Up together, any small team, COVID came, you have good revenues. مثلا, you're just taking in. So, you know, you're in a way, it's sustainable.
Yeah.
These VCs, for them, if they give you, and I'm not against VCs, don't get me wrong, but I just want to explain this because I want to play devil's advocate. If I give you $1 and the dollar becomes $2, I really haven't done my job. Heba has done her job vis-a-vis herself and her other investors, بمعنى, and you're very happy if one becomes $2. But they need to get to 100. So there's a push to that scale, which also means many years of not being profitable, very likely.
Yeah.
But they kind of have to swing for the fences. How much do you, because you're a first-time entrepreneur, but not entrepreneur in the sense it's your company and you're raising venture capital money. Yeah. But you've done this before and you've done businesses before.
I've done small business.
Small business. Yeah. What was your instinct telling you about what they wanted to hear or what you should have told them versus your real instinct? You don't want to blow out the budget completely. You don't want to spend 5 years losing money. How did you manage this? Or is it still an issue for you?
Yeah, luckily, or I don't know how it worked, is my first investors were angels. That they don't put that pressure on you. And they also understand what it means to be a founder قوي.
صح.
And if they like the idea, they're patient with you. So we didn't have that. The pressure started once. The thing is حتى with angels, you grow the team and you're kind of spending more than you're earning. I grew into it. Like, the truth is, at the beginning, I hated VCs and I didn't.
Like, do you buy this now? It needs to be 100. Like,
today, I buy it.
You buy it?
Yeah.
You really think that's what you need to grow the company?
Today. But the thing is, Anna, my allergy was around the people who just entered the business, like into the industry, and they're like, I'm disrupting this industry.
Space.
I'm like, what do you know? Like, what do you know about it? Do you know what I mean? And that's where I couldn't talk that way. I couldn't say, I'm going to do this. And
do you have to talk that way?
I have to feel it a little bit as a person, and to feel I can see this growth and I can see the traction before I can start saying that's where I'm going to go.
Because I think of you as someone highly ambitious, very smart, very well spoken, but I don't see you necessarily being pushed in VC lingo just to land the check. Yani, how did you...
I don't talk that.
How did you... Yeah, yani, I think you might even be at some points almost overly honest because it's your business and you feel it, as opposed to kind of like, of course we can achieve 200x in 3 years. And it's bullshit sometimes.
And I've seen the crashes. Like, we've all seen the crashes, right? Of the companies, the darlings of the VCs, and some of them have failed. I don't use the lingo. I've gotten better at it. Like, I've definitely gone out of my comfort zone. I believe it more. I also, like, once you see your technology and your company growing faster, I believe it more, so I can talk more. I also, like, Annie, I went to an accelerator program where all they do is train you on how to take out all the words.
Was it beneficial?
It was very beneficial. It was very beneficial.
Do you need
I didn't want to go. طبعا, no. Like, why? Why would, you know what I mean? I don't need an accelerator program, but أولاً it was in Saudi. So
I remember when you went.
Yeah, I رفضت يعني شوية قبل ما أروح a little bit.
بس رحت.
I needed the money.
Okay.
And also I met this woman, Amel Dukhan. I don't know if you know her. She's in Saudi. And she was a magnet. Like, she was amazing. And I think in hindsight, it was a great experience. But before going, yes, I had the whole, like, I've been a founder for 3 years. Why do I need this?
Yes.
I think for me, the value was, yes, they teach you how, as a pitch, to remove all the uncertainty that I think many females and certain type of people have when they're talking. So you have to be more confident.
I mean, do we not? Can we agree that in many cases, it's mostly females or women that I find men amazingly ambitious, even when they have very little to say.
Yeah.
And women, the opposite. Like
Yeah.
some of the smartest women I know, and they kind of hold back. They're a lot more
They
careful.
hold back.
بيوزنوا كلامهم, whereas the men are like blah, blah, blah. Yani very good at this.
Yes.
So that is...
And hence the ratio of
Hence the
women
ratio.
getting funding to men.
Yeah.
Yani not the only reason. Obviously, there's great men too. That's definitely...
Are there great men? No, I'm just...
Definitely, I've seen more women
صح.
being understated and needing to have their data like 100% perfected before they can go out on stage and say, I have a business that's going to do this. And all of us have to put these like, I believe and I think and this stuff, they helped me remove it from my pitch.
And remember, especially in tech, the women that have kind of pitched this lean in idea, like Sheryl Sandberg, very hard, turned out to be semi-fraudsters, to be very honest. I mean, sorry, but this is the truth, right? I mean, they're selling something very different. They're selling a story to women that's very different than their reality and what they actually are doing. So I feel like women have just not also seen great role models in that sense. So they wind up being very conscientious.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes across as not aggressive enough versus men who kind of can be cheap salesmen, but it sounds like, oh, they're confident.
Yeah. But also because it's natural to them. Yani for women, bardo, it takes us a long time to kind of unravel this, like, being so conscious of everything. So that you become a natural in your confidence. But I think the challenge is to keep who you are, but to also understand that the world operates differently, shwaya, and you have to not
because
hold back.
I know this matters to you. I mean, from the early days since I've known you, I know that it matters to you. You started a business before with 2 other women, yet you brought up 2 beautiful boys, right? And you're aware of that, the dynamics of what it takes. What did that mean for you in terms of your company? Did you, masalan, want to prioritize hiring women? Did you feel you wanted a certain energy within the company? Did these things come to mind, or it just happened organically? So walk me through your philosophy there.
Yeah, I guess I consider myself a quiet feminist. Yeah, I don't talk about it necessarily.
It's a quiet luxury.
I'm not like Cheryl's.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, but
I'm very conscious of it because it's in me, of how women get in their own way a little bit and how we tend to be people please. Yani, some men too, but like it's just much more common with women that we tend to be people pleasers, shwaya. But I see this with a lot of the women that join the company. I don't prioritize hiring women. I want to hire the best people for the job.
Yeah.
But design tends to have
more
a high
women.
Percentage of women, and our company is actually half men, half women. Yeah, we also have many men, yani. But I make a bit of a conscious effort to make it a place that women want to work and come back and realize that we have like forks in our lives which men don't have. And you have things pulling against you in that fork of like society telling you, stay home, you know what I mean? And the company not like necessarily providing an inviting environment. So I make that a point, and I make that flexibility a point, and you can actually work in many different ways.
Yeah, because you've experienced it yourself.
بالضبط.
And by the way, just to go back to that point, I mean, my critique of Sheryl Sandberg was not that she hasn't identified a clear issue. This was a real issue when she wrote Lean In. My big critique is that she doesn't what do you say? Doesn't walk the talk, or whatever they say. Yani, she identified that, but her life did not reflect those values. That is the problem. So the key is, how honest are you in actually reflecting those values that you care for? Now, you can be quiet in your feminism, but I think in your day-to-day, you're executing on those values you believe in, right?
It's a day-to-day. And بالنسبة لي is the small, subtle things that happen every single day.
It's not necessarily rah-rah. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to shout from the tower.
Yeah, I don't shout.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I shout.
I don't shout.
Yeah.
It's like being in a meeting and finding, the young designer who's very quiet, but she's done the work. And you need to pull out her voice, or having a guy say something that is a bit and making sure that you don't let that happen. It's these little things. It's telling people, encouraging maternity leave. الحاجات الصغيرة دي.
Yeah, and by definition in a society, especially in Egypt, these women will be hungrier because the opportunities for them, unfortunately, are far and in between. Yani the men have more opportunities just by definition, right? These women, to even work in some cases, have to navigate a lot.
Yeah.
So when they land in that job, I think they're really ready to go. Somebody just has to bring it out of them.
Yeah.
And that's very important.
Keep them in the game. Yani. Don't make it easy for them to decide that they're exiting.
Yeah.
Just keep them in and make it very easy for them to come back. I think it's changing a bit. I think after COVID now with like hybrid work environments, it's gonna change. But Lisa, I think men prefer to hire men. The whole maternity leave is still on the employer's mind of should I hire her?
She's gonna be out for X number of months.
Yeah.
Then you made a very unusual decision. So for someone who started a company 5-6 years ago, you've decided to go out and get a co-founder. Now, typically, and in VC speak again, and I know this for a fact, they tell you we'd rather hire, and some actually VCs insist on having a co-founder, right? If you go as a solo founder, they sometimes tell you, go find a co-founder and come back to us. We know, or statistically speaking, that companies that are led by more than one person have a higher chance of succeeding, all of that.
Yeah.
Yet again, we have many companies that have been run very successfully by solo founders. It means usually that happens in the first 6 to 12 months.
Exactly.
Now you've come back after the company was, let's call it fully formed, and decided to find a co-founder. Walk me through this decision-making process.
هي بالضبط كده.
عايز أفهم.
I didn't think I was gonna. Yeah, and when by the time Efreshli was 3 years old, I definitely didn't think there was gonna be a co-founder. Like it wasn't like on day one, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have a co-founder.
وبعدين sorry بعتك هبة يعني. Also, you've had experience working with 2 other partners, right?
Yeah.
So you were in a business, 2 other women that we're friends with.
Yeah.
So you already knew what you didn't want. I'm not saying I know
about myself.
Yeah, about yourself.
Yeah.
يعني I know they're great friends of yours. But you wanted to run the show.
Yeah.
إيه بقى اللي حصل؟
So I ran the show.
تمام.
And I loved it. And I've never been more effective in my life.
Okay, great.
Okay. Primarily because of me. And you know me.
I do know you.
Okay. And my husband always, I'm a people pleaser and I'm non-confrontational.
100%.
I hate conflict.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm well aware of that. We're keeping it today, if you notice, at a very low.
فالحاجتين دول when you're working with peers, like يعني in a management, are quite
almost impossible.
Setback. Yeah, they make it harder to make decisions.
It's hard, yeah.
I loved the first 2-3 years in that sense. But somewhere along the line, like I'm telling you, I'm kind of an emergent strategy of thinking how big do we want this to be. I started hearing people tell me, you need a co-founder. And I didn't take it like lightly at the beginning. My husband was the first one, probably.
To tell you that. But he's still there.
You need a co-founder. You need a co-founder.
God bless Uzo.
God bless.
Yeah.
He always says the truth.
Yeah, he definitely
I don't want
that's the circus shy, but that's a very different podcast too.
Yes.
But yeah, God bless him for that.
طبعا I took it personally. أنا بالنسبة لي, what does that mean? Why can't I lead this company? يعني أنا بالنسبة لي there are other people who have they're sole founders.
And was his point or those others, not just Ahmed, that gave you this point, because I know that was very heartfelt, obviously, is it, I don't think they were saying you can't handle it. صح? I think they were saying...
I think they were saying I can't handle it.
Wallahi? Or do you feel you took it that way?
I think, no, maybe I took it this way.
It doesn't matter which... I don't know.
It doesn't matter. But I think what they were saying is this can continue to be an SME. You can grow 50% double a year, maybe. You know what I mean?
Or you can blow it up.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're saying you want this tech company that's like a regional, design company, right? You can't do it on... I mean...
Yes, but you can get a great head of ops.
Strong teams, you could. And we went through this whole exercise and I thought about all of that. And then I went to Saudi for the accelerator program and I started to meet VCs and half of them said it was fine. Half of them said you need a co-founder.
The amount of ego bruising. الأول ودوك accelerator وبعدين قالوا لي كنت محتاجة co-founder. يعني شو بيعطوك ريهاب الموضوع يعني واو.
طبعا قلت لهم okay and also يعني whatever. But it plants a seed and you think about it and you think of the trajectory of your company and طبعا خلاص at this point the person I bring in has to be like يعني
Oh, of course.
يعني for me يعني had to be somebody who's really gonna help me change the trajectory of the company.
You can't bring like a mini me. I mean, there's no point, right?
There was no point.
Yeah.
And I have great people as a team, but you want someone with agency who wakes up every day, who has like skin in the game, who's obsessing just like you want that, yani. And then I met my co-founder. So the last VC, before meeting Dina, they also sent me CVs with other people. I'm like, this is not happening. This is not happening. Yani, there was this whole exercise, and I met Dina. Dina was at Google.
Also Egyptian.
She's Egyptian.
Yeah.
She's also HBS.
Yes, like you.
Yeah.
A bit younger, I guess.
10 years younger.
Okay.
And she's been working in Google for 8 years. Hey, Alyssa, she lives in San Francisco. She lives in California. She doesn't live in Egypt or Dubai, yani, but she's thinking of coming back to Egypt. And our VC Layla told me, يعني you don't lose anything وكذا. And بس we started talking like a year before she joined, actually.
Wow.
And I liked her. يعني at the end of the day, there's a part
that is 100% the most important thing.
Or there's a part that like kind of there's something that can shift. And I think with co-founders, it's also a bit like partnership, right? Like the first thing is you have to feel
like
this.
It's like a second marriage. I mean,
it's exactly like that.
Yeah.
So you have to feel this. But I had two things like to make the decision. أول حاجة, is this somebody who's going to change the trajectory? Like, is this person bringing in with
the value add worth it?
Is it worth it?
Yes.
Is the opportunity bigger than what I'm going to lose? Because I'm going to give up stuff, you know?
Come on.
That was for sure. Dina was working in Google بقالها 8 سنين. She scales يعني and this is what I'm looking for, right? We're scaling this company.
Yeah.
So that was a no-brainer. And then the second, and I think probably the very more important one is, do you have the same values?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Are you going to treat people the same way? You're going to give people mixed signals? Are you doing this for the same reason? Do you care enough? And I think over the course, and I kind of knew على طول, these are the instinct things, but we got to know each other better, so the decision became very easy for me, and it's also an opportunity. And I think when you meet people like that, it's not that common.
Did you flip-flop? Like, did you have like...
I never flip-flop.
No.
Not with Dina.
Yeah,
I flip-flopped with the whole co-founder idea.
Yeah.
With Dina, it was, I knew it.
Did she grow up in Egypt?
She grew up in Egypt.
I'm asking because, you know, I mean... being also an outsider looking in is very different than insider doing insider. And we both know this. B'mana, you're in a business that's very much about your insider knowledge of the market, the people, etc. And I have seen, and nothing wrong with that, but a lot of Arab Americans say they look at places like Egypt and even Dubai, and they have these googly eyes, right? They have this kind of they romanticize the reality, and they don't wind up being necessarily as effective because of that, because they come in with a bit of a sanitized version of the reality, whereas I think we're much more kind of in it.
Yeah.
Did that?
No, we're the same.
Okay,
we're just,
and
she's just younger than us. That's why we don't know her.
Yeah.
No,
I was just wondering about the dynamic.
No, she went to AUC,
yeah.
electrical engineering. She did the whole AUC thing. She just lived abroad for HBS and
State.
And Google. I think maybe other stuff. But in general, very similar to us. And that's, I think, why you have برضو similar values.
Yes. Do you find yourself, now how long has she been with you?
6 months.
6 months. Sometimes waking up and thinking, you know, I'm making a decision and be like, oh, I should have maybe spoken to her first. Like, I definitely do that.
That's the hardest. That's the biggest loss, right? Of being
because
a
you want to move quick
also,
right?
Because you're used to doing things, you know what I mean? And then like...
You're like, let's just do it.
I don't... I remember my personality. I think about it. I overthink. I try very hard to make sure that I do things as much as I can. The way we've agreed, not to overlook people, but yes,
But come on, you don't want to like...
But also we've divided شوية.
Okay.
And I think that's a very important thing in having co-founders is don't overlap too much.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So that people can bardo still be fast. But we share the really important stuff. But no, I still make quick decisions.
Can I ask you something a bit personal? I'm just curious. Is this decision to kind of go for the VC funding, the scale, the co-founder, have anything to do with the fact that your kids left home? I'm just curious because obviously, like all of us, I mean, and I have still younger kids. There's chapters in our lives.
Yeah.
Right? And you can dedicate X amount of time to work as much as you love it, even if it's your company, when you have kids at home.
Yeah.
The moment you're an empty nester, it changes. So was this a conscious decision or just happened in the evolution?
I think it just happened in the evolution. I've been working my whole life.
Yeah, no, that I know.
Yeah,
God knows.
With the kids, the only reason I became an entrepreneur was because of the kids. That was that was the change that I made because of the kids, is for flexibility. But even after that, I was working. I've worked very hard.
But I meant the scaling.
When my kids, but the first years of having a startup are the hardest.
Okay.
So when my kids were still 10 and 12, but I was, alhamdulillah, working at home, so I could still, work around them شوية, but I was always working hard.
So these things are not related.
They're not, but I kind of think, I think definitely I don't have to slow down. That's a good thing. That the kids are leaving home is like, I feel like I'm going to have also this that I can look forward to.
And you want to accelerate? I'm just telling you this because I'm just, as I get to 51, which I am now, there are days when I'm like, I don't know. I mean, because that's also a very HBS thing, right? I mean, this kind of like run. And when you run your own company, in some ways you can. But sometimes I wonder, does that even serve me? Yani, does that occur to you? Or you want to press on the gas pedal? You're like, no, let's go.
It occurs to me for sure. And I want to make sure I can spend time with my kids as much as I can.
It's not what I meant necessarily. I meant...
But it's the natural evolution of the company at this point. And I want to see this company to fruition.
And what's fruition?
Yeah, I have a vision statement, but I'm not going to tell you. But I just think that...
لا من غير statement. قولي لي الفيجن بس كده خديني حبة حبة.
Fruition is that this is a service that could just serve so many people. It doesn't need to be a geographically constraint. It doesn't need to be just in Egypt. It could definitely be in the UAE and Saudi.
Yeah.
For sure. It could serve a lot more people if we keep iterating as a product, making it better, that it's actually a scaled-up product. And so far, yes, we're bigger than any designer or any... We're in a different space, but I don't feel that it's reached its potential.
And if it does reach that potential, so let's just fast forward, you're now in Saudi, the UAE, Egypt, the company has grown. Then what? And somebody comes to you and wants to acquire the company. Or, I mean, is your fruition, I keep growing this, and as long as I have good partners and I'm able to fund it, and hopefully at some point it's profitable so it can fund itself, I'm growing it? Or is it if somebody comes and gives me a check for 100 million, I'm going to go to the beach. Nothing wrong with that, by the way, if you work very hard.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I want the company to achieve its potential. I want to see it's, when you have a company, it's like a baby, and you want the baby to grow up, and you want the baby to you have to watch it from if I'm not part of the story in 10 years, I'm not part of the story. I'm not anymore thinking I have to be the part of the story in 10 years.
Are you sure? You think so?
I've already
scaled back.
Right now, by getting in the Bardo a co-founder and the growth, the company today is a little bit different than the company was 2 years ago. And طبعا it is my third baby.
Yes, of course.
It really is. But we did get at one point in the life of the company, somebody did want to come and buy us. And بالنسبة لي, that person is not going to make this company achieve what
you cared about that.
Of course. Yeah. Because for me, this idea is going to die. It's going to die next month.
I'm telling you this because we had a similar situation, and a lot of my friends told me, why do you care who buys it as long as you sold?
I care.
No. Of course I care. It's part of your legacy, and it's not an ego thing.
Yeah.
If somebody comes and I don't think it's the right person that's going to take this forward in the vision we had in mind, of course I would much rather not do it.
Yeah.
And hopefully I have investors that understand that.
Yeah. It's not worth it. For what did you do all of that? Yeah, it depends about what motivates you. Yeah, but you never did it for money.
No, not really.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it depends what's your primary motivator. Was it about money? You should have stayed in banking.
Yes.
I should have stayed in... I don't
Thanks
know what
for reminding me.
I don't think you did it for money, right?
Nice.
I could have stayed in different career paths. You did it because you thought you could see yourself creating something that was different and was changing something.
Okay. In the middle of all of this, the change, co-founder, scaling, and all of a sudden you get this new thing coming up, which is not so new, but all of a sudden looked new about 18 months ago, called AI, that now no one cannot not talk about. And every single business, most definitely tech and non-tech also, had to start being like, oh my God, what is that going to do to my business?
Yeah.
So what's that going to do to your business? And how do you think about that?
It's going to change my business a lot. Design, I think, is one of the industries that's going to be changed.
Yeah.
It's changing everybody, طبعا. And I think in many ways, making everybody a lot more productive. I don't know about you, but today I like open ChatGPT, Claude, like all of them, and just check, and you're like, how did they know all of this? You know.
And by the way, Chirag, you didn't come out very well. I'm just kidding. She was telling me she ChatGPT'd all our podcasts.
I did ChatGPT.
Apparently, we are not. ChatGPT hasn't fully figured out the Lighthouse conversations yet.
No, but they gave me a little bit about you. But they did. Yeah. Your last 10 episodes came out, but still, you're still not.
Well, that's why I do some of them in Arabic to trick ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So I think one thing, it's going to make people a lot more productive. So everybody, content, all of these people need to be using. إحنا in Egypt برضو, we're slightly behind. The thing about us is we live in 3 different worlds, I think. For me, I live in Dubai, where I think people are a bit more advanced. And then I'm always listening to podcasts in the US where I feel that
you're like, oh my God.
There's not a podcast that doesn't cover, that's not talking about AI.
They're almost
they've converted. Like but I think it's moving so fast. That if you're not using it, you're in trouble.
Give me specific user cases in your business. Because, I mean, obviously the clear user case to me is I can go to Perplexity and be like, give me a mood board for blah, 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 and blah. And they'd be able to generate it. So that's work that you're doing now. But again, will they get the taste right? Will they get the human They do?
They're going to get everything right, in my view.
So let's go to the Bahamas.
No, so what they still haven't, there's a few things they still haven't done, but what they do is, you have a lot of tools right now that can create a 3D render or mood board. You have to prompt it, and you have to get better at it. So if you're already on board and using it, you're going to know what's coming next, and you're going to be the designer that's using AI to do 10 designs in an hour instead of 1 in a week. Do you know what I mean? So you're going to be much more productive. But you have to prompt it.
Yes.
That human is there. Yes, they do them. They're very good now at inspiration. The first step in design.
But it almost feels like that's a net plus for your business, right? Because you can churn out more of those mood boards. But at the end of the day, if I want this, I still have to go through you.
You don't know who's at that part. They still, in our part of the world, in other parts, they've actually gotten there. But you can't. You see the mood board, and then تجيب items دي. بالضبط. No, there's no AI that's helping with that. You have it in the States.
You do?
Yeah, you put the picture, it puts you the thing, and it tells you exactly where to get like this table from like 10 different shops.
Wow.
Right? Yes, but you're right. It makes the designer much more productive, right?
Yeah.
If she decides to use it. That's the big if.
You have to now go to your team and like indoctrinate this.
Yeah, I mean, first you try to tell people, please use it, and then please use it. And then I think at one point you have to say you have to use it. I think this is what companies that want to ride this wave, they need to do. And I think it's affecting that. It's affecting in software engineering as a whole. Like I heard Bardo, another podcast that said 90% of code is going to be written by AI.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Software
engineers. That's like the... You know what I mean? The
all
top
these
of
guys
that, that's like what you're teaching your kids.
$500,000 sitting at Google and they're gone, basically, and within 2-3 years.
They're gone, or they're using them and they're growing exponentially because they're able to do a lot more. But the ones who are using the software, the AI, are growing faster.
Yeah, but you don't need 200 of them anymore.
No.
And whatever. Facebook had 1,000 of them. They might need 20. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So you see this generally as a threat or as an opportunity or a bit of both?
It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think it's a big opportunity if you embrace it quickly. I think because then you're one of those people, right, who is able to move fast and create a lot more with less.
But can I just be devil's advocate for a second, just for the fun of it? The fact that you're using it, for you to use it or for your team to use it to, let's call it again, generate more mood boards, that makes a lot of sense. But I am not sure today that your average consumer, if I go to my mother's friend, right?
Not your mother's friend.
Okay, but
that's your son's friend.
My son, my phone, but my son is not buying anything of value. Sorry, Abudi, anytime soon. So my point being is, I'm also one, because I listen to the same podcast you do in the US. I'm I do see the user case, but I'm just not sure it's that fast or it's being enmeshed in people's lives so quickly as people might think.
Yeah.
And what I'm using it for now is honestly the question I used to ask Google, but now I get, instead of a blue link, I get an answer.
Yeah.
But I'm not necessarily using it yet for buy me a ticket to Philadelphia and book the hotel, and some chat bot comes and does all of that and gives me the...
But you can. I agree with you, Bus, and I think definitely our generation and maybe a bit younger than us aren't. Do you know what I mean? But the truth is, it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's not Aboud, it's my son, and I have people in my company who are that age group that for them it's not a threat.
Yeah.
بالعكس, it's an opportunity. It's what's going to be the problem, Hesham, is the types of business كمان that's going to start. That's going to be your competition. Yeah, أنا ما بخافش من an e-commerce player or another retailer. But if a business is built purely on AI today, that's where the threat comes in, because you haven't taken the time or like prioritized embedding it into your business. I don't know about food. Like, I don't know, but I think definitely with food, like, it's a very experiential,
So in many ways it's design, right? So, I mean, I'm just thinking loud here. Like, I'm sure I can be like, build this room with Hashim's taste. Let's just put it this way. And you get something close. But I still feel a lot of it is like, I'm in this room now and I'm like, no.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is the designer becomes an editor.
Yes.
And that's, build this room with Hashim's taste. The first draft you're going to get from an AI is going to save you 3 days.
مزبوط.
Minimum. How many more? So you have to just decide, where does the designer put her touch, and where do you use AI so that you're massively more productive?
صح.
Definitely the empathy. Yeah. And we know a lot about like our customers. Our customers, they have to tell you everything about their decision making. That's very important to stay with a human, in my opinion. hand holding ده. بس the inspiration and a lot of the process is going to be AI.
Does that take out, I'm generally very pro technology, so don't get me wrong, but out a little bit of the soul. I mean, like, isn't part of the fun, like part of my better conversations, let's put it this way, are with my designer when I'm thinking about a new restaurant, right? And I get excited and we kind of, send things to each other and back and forth. And then it kind of slowly comes together.
Yeah.
And then we add the finishing touches and, like that process to me is almost part of building a restaurant.
Definitely.
And if that's going to be done with a click of a button over 3 days, like, doesn't a part of you die?
I think design is a huge industry, and you have the very high-end, very personal one, and that's probably gonna, in my view, be later to like have to adapt, because it's like you're saying, you go to a designer because you want that designer. Do you know what I mean? And those conversations, that personal thing is core to the product. I think for something like what we're doing, where you're trying to build scale, and speed and convenience are important, that we have to embrace it. But you still have the designer. Yeah. But maybe, and each designer becomes a lot more productive, and you're not going to have to grow by like, you don't have to triple your designers. You can double your designers and still, grow much faster than that.
How much do you care about the aspirational element? Do you sometimes think of yourself as, in a way, selling taste, a point of view? Or, because I was looking at your website, and Masan, I like the fact that you have different mood boards and for different styles. Yeah. And you had like, I don't know, the minimalist Fatma and I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm definitely Fatma the minimalist. And I kind of went into Fatma the minimalist and I found some brands I know, some of the Turkish brands and so on. I was like, oh, the glassware and so on. Yeah. Because we use some of them here.
Okay.
And Basabachi, and you had some interesting things. But how do you feel you tilt towards something that's more your style? Like if you're the minimalist Fatma, for lack of a better word.
I'm definitely the minimalist.
مش كده my figure as much. When I went there, I was like, that's definitely, Heba definitely edited this bit. But to know if you're like the maximalist, Rania, do you feel like it tilts towards your taste?
Me, Heba?
You, Heba.
Not anymore. Yes, we sell taste, for sure.
Yeah, like, you see that you're in that business.
All design companies sell taste if they're good, right? And I think that was what differentiated us from your typical e-commerce home e-commerce. We were so focused on this taste and vetting and making sure the brands were, which made us much slower, right? And not ambitious. And all of that was our route, because بالنسبة لنا design is taste.
Yeah.
That's not where you can go.
So important, because I know that the VCs and everybody, because we get the same thing. They tell you it's all about scale. But if I hadn't spent or maybe I'm just telling myself that to feel better about myself, all that time and effort at the beginning, vetting, like you said, to make sure the taste lands.
The taste. Yes.
I feel like now I can grow it.
Now you can.
Because I have this foundation. But without it, I think it just becomes like Amazon.
I see it that way.
Which is honestly a very efficient experience, but completely soulless.
And the world doesn't need another Amazon. Nobody needs another Amazon.
No one needs another Amazon.
Okay. Yes, أنا بالنسبة لي, that was the differentiator. You want a home e-commerce that sells, sofas like fridges? There's others that do that. That's not what we do. We sell taste. But what I want to get back to, Bardo, is the aesthetic part. Yes, we sell taste, but it's not just, that's what's different. Like, so you have certain designers, probably the designer that did this place, that person has an aesthetic, and you wanted that aesthetic.
Well, so what I have found, my aesthetic has evolved. So I was very much in the minimalist kind of world. When I started moving, including this restaurant, to me, that's very maximalist compared to what we used to do.
I love
but I thank you. And I kind of evolved with it. Like, I'm much more comfortable with the layering today. Has that happened to you as well?
Definitely. I love layering.
Yeah.
But Efreshli has all the... we are trying. Maybe it doesn't come out.
Has your aesthetic tried?
Definitely. I think as we grow, so maximalism and all of that is definitely trending. That's for sure.
Yeah.
People, I think, are bored of the whole
I'm so glad I'm trending, because that's important.
You're for sure trending.
Yeah, I care to trend.
But also, I think as we get older, we get through a stage like where minimalist, that's all you want. You don't want any clutter. Yeah. And then we want to collect and have the stories next to us.
Yes, that's true.
Our age group tends to have more maximalist in it, for sure.
So you're trying to cater to all of
We're trying to, as long as it's good taste. Okay. Yeah, this is what we say. Is I don't care if you're minimalist, if you're boho, if you're eclectic, but I'm not going to put you some gold, traditional furniture in your door. Don't come to me.
How much of your audience or your user base is female versus male?
Probably 70% female. But we have, we love the males that come. The males are the best.
They're the best.
It's the best, but they're the easiest. They're like convenient. They fit very much the persona. Do you know what I mean? They're very
are they like, I want
convenient
this.
and quick. And and I want this. And they're like, somebody took Shallu Leila and sweet. So we have some very prominent people who come in.
And do you go and visit homes or spaces that have been Efreshli by Efreshli?
Definitely.
You do?
Was at the beginning, I used to be involved a lot. I actually was literally sitting on until Bardo Ahmed, my husband, told me
was like, stop it. God bless Ahmed. We have to. I hope he gave him some equity.
He's like, this is not going to scale. But I have to do this. He's like, this is not going to scale.
He kind of has a point. But I feel you and hear you. I used to do the same.
I had to feel it, right? And then we hired a lot of, we have many designers now. I visited a lot of them. Taban, they become your friends. These clients become your friends. We can't do that anymore. We have hundreds of projects a year. But we do have a premium category. So we have 3 different categories. Mini is at the low end and premium at the high end. We do visit.
And by premium, you mean the fee is higher?
The fee is a bit higher.
Okay.
Still very low compared to any industry standard. It's less than $200 a room.
Per room?
Yeah.
So you charge per room?
We charge per room because you're trying to get people into the design world. So the mini is like $50 a room. $50.
Do you get haters from the interior design world? Or do they work with you?
Both.
Some haters and some work with you.
Because the industry is quite complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Like all industries.
And insidious and a bit like...
Yeah, and you're competing, but you're collaborating. And so a lot of the brands on our website, we have our own private labels as well. But as long as you're bringing people business, people understand that there's this collaboration
they need
and
to have this,
And I think some designers at the beginning may have thought we were downgrading the world of design, but we were serving a different... we're serving white
100%.
Why are these people not allowed to have design, right? They also can have access.
You're making it more accessible.
Exactly.
What are the next steps? So are you're thinking of going, you mentioned, so the UAE or Saudi or both, is that the next chapter?
Yes.
Which one specifically? Because they have 2 very different markets.
Very different. Yeah. I think the UAE comes next because I'm here.
Yeah.
And I think that service still has a lot of potential here.
Yeah.
It's a big Bardo furniture market.
Yeah.
But in terms of having all the brands in under one roof, I think still can happen. Yani. Saudi, it's just that I feel that it's an opportunity now, and there's a window.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long that window is open, right? There's always going to be an opportunity, but
it just will evolve.
It's going to evolve, but again, like if I want to go in 5 years, I have to be a fully AI company. And with what I have today,
you could not do both.
I can't do both at exactly the same
time.
So
you're looking to do. So is the UAE? Is that an official plan?
What do you mean official? No, I mean I don't have the business plan and the market plan.
By next year, same time.
Yes.
I should find a UAE website.
Yes, by next year, same time, you should have a UAE business here. You should recognize, I think, the name. You'll see it in ads.
And is there a way in the GCC, is every market very bespoke? Or is it like, if I crack those two because they're the two biggest, I can then easily roll out Qatar and Bahrain and Kuwait? Like, I'm actually asking, I don't know.
I don't think there's an easy...
Okay.
For me, easy rollout, it doesn't exist. I don't know yet. Again, I always don't know. Yani, before I know the thing, خايفة شوية. And then you start and then you're like, Ida, I can do this, right? You know?
And walk me through the offline strategy.
So we just launched the shop in November.
Yeah, Mabruk, I saw that. Is it like a warehouse or is it a actual curated space?
It's
all your different... So I want this, I can now feel it. I can go to the shop and take
furniture, people want to touch and feel. Like there's still this being close.
Yeah.
There's this.
But then you're all of a sudden into the warehousing and inventory management. Yani.
I've always had a warehouse.
For anyway.
Yeah. I've always had a warehouse because from the very beginning, Efreshli's value proposition was it's
quick.
Until installation.
Okay.
There was a big pain point in Egypt of the quality of delivery, like the service.
Yeah.
This doesn't exist here. It's not. You don't have that problem here.
So are you rolling out 20 shops?
No. Retail was the idea was retail was everybody was, where's your store? Where's your store? Where's your store? When you get that question over 2 years, at some point you have to do a store.
So you'll have a store or maybe two.
We'll have 2 stores.
2 stores.
One in the east and one in the west.
And you think of every city this way, in a way.
I think so. And I think the time of taking to launch is going to be different. But in Egypt, it took us that long. It does what the store does is, it lets people touch and feel. It builds the brand. I think building a brand is really important. And it also brings in design projects. Like a good chunk of our design projects each month are coming by people who enter the store. It's like kind of bringing onto the online.
I still think we underestimate how much people want to touch them. To me, again, as I was saying this earlier in the podcast, the online, offline, the ratio is up to the different companies. But really, I find is a very positive reinforcement mechanism for each other.
Yes, for sure.
In many ways.
Yeah.
And there's still people, by the way, when they don't have a space, feel it's not real. Like you go to a generation, again, our mother's generation, where if Efreshli doesn't have a space in 100%. New Giza, مثلا 6 October, then we were like, yeah,
they don't trust you.
I don't want to go there.
They don't trust you. You're somewhere in the cloud. I don't know where you are. At one point, it was like 1 in 3 of our customer inquiries was, where's your store? Where's your store? So
amazing.
Eventually you make the store.
It feels to me that what you're doing is giving you a very high level of fulfillment just from the body language.
Big it?
Yeah. I'm surprised you're surprised.
I'm surprised that you see it. Yeah.
I see it. And you're not, obviously I'm sure there is the challenges, no question. But I feel like you have a clear picture and you're energized by the challenges versus overwhelmed by the challenges. This is the impression I get.
Yeah.
So you're somebody that ever since I've known you, I think you've always been busy. So I can't imagine.
Yeah, but this is my favorite. Favorite job.
So, but it feels like there's a very high level. Is that when you were at HBS many years ago? Not that many. Then I look old too. Some time back.
Yeah.
Does that hit the mark? We were talking earlier a little bit about Harvard Business School and the kind of people that were there and how we felt when we were both there and so on. Does this hit a lot of the marks of... I know it's probably not what you expected, but in terms of executing on your values and your fulfillment from a professional and personal perspective?
Yeah, and to see this actually come to life, right?
Yeah.
One day there was no Efreshli, and today I'm serving this many customers, right? Yeah, you created that.
But you seem reluctant to say it, if it is what...
What I mean is that is very, I think, creating.
Yeah. It keeps you young.
Very fulfilling.
It keeps you...
When you wake up I have had times in my career where I wake up and I don't want to go to work.
Yeah.
Not with Efreshli.
Yeah.
As a consultant or...
Yeah, we all know where that was. Yes.
Yeah. whatever. I was probably a B player at McKinsey. فاهم قصدي? There are jobs that are fit for you and there are jobs that are not fit for you, right? And you don't discover that until you try many different things.
Yeah, and we talked about this because مثلا HBS is a place where at least I felt people excelled in corporate jobs. I never found myself in a corporate job. I mean, EMG was the only exception because really it wasn't as corporate. It's an Egyptian company with slightly loose. So it actually was very entrepreneurial. Every other corporate job, it paid the bills. It looked great on my resume. I'm glad I did it in retrospect. But honestly, it wasn't me at all. JP Morgan, Merrill Lynch, those kind of companies. You know, when I was like clicking in the morning after 200,000 employees at JP Morgan, New York, I mean, Fazli, did you know this about yourself?
I mean, you notice these things in retrospect.
Yeah.
So, like, I think at some point when you're a consultant and you don't feel like you realize I don't love this, right? I don't love the project, maybe whatever it is, but definitely this agency that you have as a entrepreneur, that you see how you change, and people who are working with you and the world actually. يعني مش عايزة استعمل كلام كبير, but you actually in your little square, you're changing stuff. That for me is very, very fulfilling. And just because I see friends and I see people who wake up every morning, and to wake up like that, and عايز تبتدي اليوم, أو to think about it at night. Sometimes I don't know, am I a workaholic or do I just love my job? I don't even know. Like it's a blurred. The lines are blurred.
Very.
Right? Like some of my friends, like, you're a workaholic. I'm like, no, I just love my job. Like this is my hobby. You know what I mean? And then sometimes, it bleeds into burnout, whatever. But so what I mean is,
no, you manage. I mean, you found ways to manage, right?
Yeah.
I have one last question for you. I mean, when you look back now, is there something, at least within the Efreshli tenure, you would have done differently in terms of major forks down the road? Would you have gotten a co-founder 4 years earlier? Would you have, I don't know.
I'm not a regret person.
Okay, you move on.
Like for me, and again, Ahmed always says this about me. He's like, once something happens, I'm going to sit there and talk about how amazing this thing is. He's like, Khalas, we did it. Like, why do we have to talk about...
What a party pooper he is, but yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
No, I think it's grateful for what you have. I tend to be a half a glass full type of person. This happened for a reason.
Yeah.
Maybe there are many things I could say. I could say I should have opened the store earlier. It was so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for me, it just happened for a reason. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
It's very helpful.
I could have had a co-founder 3 years earlier, but maybe that was for me to discover how I manage and how I lead on my own first before having that. فاهم قصدي? I tend to look at things that way.
That's amazing.
Maybe I wish I opened in the UAE earlier. I don't know. بس هي حصلت كده. I'm happy with what's been happening so far. Alhamdulillah.
It's amazing. Well, Heba, congratulations. It's a great story, great business. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you, Ash.
And I'm hoping next time we sit here to have our next podcast, you'll be like, in all of those countries, and we'll be having a different conversation about what's next.
Thank you.